Well, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge has been declared as the winner for the Congress president, but what does this really mean? Is it going to really be what everybody's been talking about, whether he's going to be remote controlled by the Gandhis, or is he going to have a free run? Is that something what is going to happen? We're going to have those answers from Mr. Jairam Ramesh, a senior Congress leader. Thank you for joining us here on NDTV.
First of all, before you ask me, this word remote control is an insult to Srimati Sonia Gandhi and to Mr. Rahul Gandhi on the one side, and is an insult to Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge on the other.
Okay.
I hope you stop using words like remote control and so on.
Okay. So, can you tell us what does this mean?
Well, Mr. Kharge is a man of, this is his 50th year in public life. He's been a minister in the state, he's been a block president, district president, president of the Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee. He's been a union minister. I mean, extraordinary experience, perhaps the most experienced man in the Congress party today. He's a symbol of social justice and social empowerment. He's fought for industrial workers. He's fought for the rights of organized and unorganized labor. He's taken on Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah frontally and brutally in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. And I think this is a victory for the organization.
Okay, so
The election is a victory for the organization. We had two very gifted, very talented candidates, poles apart in many ways, but united in their commitment to Nehruvian values, to the Gandhian values, to the Congress values. But I think the man who really seen the organization, who's had not a bird's eye view, but a worm's eye view of the organization, has won. And I think that's good for the party.
it's good for the party. Okay, what are the challenges that he's going to face, in terms of organizational overhaul?
He's becoming Congress president at a time when the Bharat Jodo Yatra has gained tremendous momentum. And the Bharat Jodo Yatra is a narrative changing, narrative defining, transformational movement in Indian politics, which has enormous implications for the Congress party, its leadership, at the block level, at the district level, at the state level, and also at the national level. So I think the biggest challenge, of course, that the new Congress president will face is to build on this momentum generated in the Bharat Jodo Yatra and use this as the catalyst for organizational reforms and transformation, which was talked about at Udaipur.
Right, yes, I'm coming to that. He was talking about how he plans to implement the Udaipur declaration. But, you as a...
Well, the first thing of the Udaipur declaration which has been implemented is the Bharat Jodo Yatra. That was, in Mrs. Gandhi's speech on the 15th of May. She announced the Bharat Jodo Yatra, and the Bharat Jodo Yatra now is in Andhra Pradesh as I speak to you this evening.
Okay. Now, I want to understand, because this is nearly after 2 decades, that it's a milestone for Congress, for the grand old party. We are looking at a new president. Does that mean he's going to have a free hand at deciding in terms of organizational levels, at grassroots levels, or will Miss Sonia Gandhi will be the deciding
factor? All this, Srimati Sonia Gandhi, Mr. Rahul Gandhi are former presidents of the Congress party. They have a unique position in the Congress party because of the legacy they represent, because of their contributions, because of their appeal across sections of society, pan-Indian appeal. They don't have a sectarian appeal. They don't have a one-class appeal. It cuts across classes, castes, regions, languages. They have a unique position in the Congress party. And Mr. Kharge is the Congress president. He's an elected Congress president.
Does that mean he'll have a free hand?
Of course, he has. Congress president is the Congress president.
What will be the roles of the Gandhis?
He is the supreme authority. And I'm sure that he will consult with Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Rahul Gandhi, as the case may be. He himself has acknowledged this. And there's no shame in acknowledging that the fact that Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Rahul Gandhi have a unique position. I mean, Mr. Gandhi is walking 21 kilometers a day for the last 42 days. Which Indian politician has done this? That I would like to ask you. The last person who did this was Mr. Chandrasekhar in 1983. And Mrs. Gandhi was responsible for the Congress's turnaround in 2004. She made UPA 1 possible. She made UPA 2 possible. She has presided over, of course, In 2014 and 2019 we lost. But she also has presided over the victory of the Congress party when it was written off in 2004. You remember, India was shining.
Yes.
But then we discovered that India was not shining.
Okay, so what will the role of the Gandhis be now?
Well, I see them as advisors. I see them as mentors. I see them as sounding boards. I see them as people you talk to. I see them as people concerned with public issues. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is certainly a very active figure on the streets in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, now in Andhra, and another 7-8 states to go. Mrs. Gandhi is not so active on the streets, but remember, Sonia Gandhi ji is still the chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party. So she will play an important role in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha as well.
Okay, but wouldn't really much interfere in the matters of the Congress president
I
role?
mean, it's up to the Congress president. I think from what I know, from what I have seen, Mr. Kharge enjoys tremendous credibility across the organization. Even the so-called G23, barring Dr. Tharoor, came out in his support. So that shows the credibility he has. I know Mrs. Gandhi and Mr. Rahul Gandhi hold him in the highest of respect. Not just because of his social background and so on, which is important. The Congress party, incidentally, 60 years ago, the Congress party became the first party in India to have a Dalit as its president, Damodaram Sanjeevaya, who incidentally comes from Kurnool district. We are in Kurnool district today. And 60 years later, we have a Dalit from Karnataka. But Mr. Kharge is more than a Dalit. Mr. Kharge is a figure who cuts across caste, religion, language, region. He's a pan-Indian figure. And the biggest thing of Mr. Kharge is his organizational commitment. Time and again, he himself has acknowledged that there were two or three occasions where he felt he had been overlooked for the position of Chief Minister of Karnataka. Now, it's very easy for him to have said, well, I'm going to find my future elsewhere. He didn't. He stayed back in the Congress party. I think for Mr. Kharge, the organization is paramount. The individual is secondary.
Okay, well, also coming to now the leader of the opposition, will that be decided by the new Congress president or will it be a collective decision?
The new leader of the opposition will obviously be decided by the chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party.
Okay.
Mrs. Gandhi is the chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party, and it's natural that she will consult Mr. Kharge because Mr. Kharge is the outgoing leader of the opposition. So it's natural that she would consult him. But I think this is a decision that will ultimately be taken by the chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party because the LOP is a parliamentary position. It's not a party position.
Now, of course, we see that already the president has been elected, but now the challenge that you spoke about was the Udaipur declaration. Coming to Rajasthan, what about it next?
What about it?
You tell me.
I mean, Rajasthan is.
I'm sure the focus will now be shifted there.
Sure, there are many. I mean, there are a lot of these challenges that we face. We have to consolidate on Chhattisgarh.
Yes.
We have immediately challenges to intensify and accelerate our campaign in Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat. Then we have Karnataka elections coming up. J&K might be coming up. Nagaland is coming up. So the Congress president will have his hands full. So I think we should leave it to the wisdom and sagacity and experience of Mr. Kharge to deal with these issues. One thing I can tell you, Mr. Kharge's style is not a flamboyant style. Mr. Kharge is not a flamboyant personality, if you know what I mean. Mr. Kharge is a person of consensus. He's low-key, a tremendous sense of humor. When I congratulated him when he became railway minister in 2012, he said, "Kya mujhe badai de rahe ho? Bahar sherwani, andar pareshani." He's got these quick one-liners like Mr. Venkaiah Naidu used to have. Better one-liners than Venkaiah Naidu, by the way. So we should leave it to his experience and we should leave it to his sagacity to deal with these problems. There are a multitude of problems in the Congress party that we have to address. And I'm sure that he is very fully conscious and cognizant of that.
Okay. Coming to regarding to the elections, right? You have had the opposition in the past talking about how Congress is the dynasty form. And now we see Congress says that they want to reinvent itself.
Well, I would like any party
Let me complete the question. Reinvent itself. Now, if you're telling us that Congress wants to reinvent itself, the irony that we've seen in the last few days, especially with regard to the Congress president polls, is that Mr. Kharge itself was a consensus candidate. He was a chosen one.
He was a consensus candidate barring one. So, by consensus, there was, everybody zeroed in on his name, but election became inevitable, and it's a democratic process. We are the only political party to have a process for electing its president. We are the only party to have an independent election authority. So election became inevitable, and I think I think all those who criticize the Congress party should now ask themselves: do they have a system for electing its president, their president? Do they have an independent election authority? I would like to know who is the TN session of the Congress party. We have a TN session in the Congress party in Madhusudan Mistry.
Yeah.
I would like to know who elected Mr. Nadda. It was a electoral college for electing Mr. Nadda was two. One was Mr. Narendra Modi and the second one was Mr. Amit Shah. So I would like all these political parties, regional parties, national parties to answer this question. So I think you keep using the word reinvented.
Yes.
Congress is a 137-year-old party. It couldn't have survived for 137 years if it didn't undergo periodic reinvention. It was. 1991 was a reinvention of the Congress party, for example. We had to jettison a lot of the policies that had been part of the Congress folklore for 30, 40 years. But we reinvented ourselves. We reinvented ourselves in 2004. And we are reinventing ourselves for 2024 through this massive mammoth Bharat Jodo Yatra.
Well, final question here is Mr. Tharoor.
Doctor.
Okay, Dr. Tharoor, he has flagged off saying that there has been irregularities during the elections in...
I think, my policy is at the end of such a process. The victor must be magnanimous, the loser must be graceful. And whatever complaints Dr. Tharoor may have will be addressed by our TN session, will be addressed by Mr. Madhusudan Mistry. So, my feeling is let's move on. These quibbling, complaints and all this will be examined by Mr. Mistry. We have a process for examining them. But I think let's move on. Let's address the organizational challenges in a collective spirit. See, I want to stress this. The renewal of the Congress is not dependent on one charismatic individual. It's not dependent on one flamboyant personality. The reinvention that you say, or the renewal of the Congress party, is dependent on a collective enterprise, a collective endeavor of the type that you're seeing in the Bharat Jodo Yatra, for instance.
Yes, I remember that.
So we need this collective enterprise. We don't need divas. We don't need these larger than life personalities. What we need are people who nose to the ground, wedded to the organization, and who put the interests of the organization over their own personal interests. And I think Mr. Kharge is a supreme embodiment of that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, in fact, telling us that, of course, Congress is headed to a straight fight as far as 2024 is concerned, and with Mr. Kharge at the helm of affairs. Of course, the organization, as far as Congress is concerned, is looking at a huge overhaul. In Adoni, with Kumar Shrija for NDTV.